Hello and welcome to Headlines. As part of the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal, Hamas has today released 3 Israeli hostages with 183 Palestinian prisoners to be freed in exchange. The agreement, attained on the 15th of January, ended the 15 months of war between Israel and Hamas and aims, ultimately, to bring a permanent end to the fighting. Yet its current practicable exigency is largely centered around the hostage-prisoner swap deal. On the whole, since the ceasefire began on the 19th of January, 18 hostages have been freed in return for 550 Palestinian prisoners. Although the 15th of January deal has been widely lauded as a historic breakthrough, its future remains uncertain. Earlier, President Donald Trump expressed his doubts on the future implementation of the Gaza deal. He also described Gaza a massive demolition site in need of rebuilding, giving rise to the eventual US takeover theory. Many now would say that the cumulative impact of the ongoing developments with Israel strengthened on the ground, with American support likely to increase from now on, the prospects of the two-state solution itself are now jeopardized too. And today I'm joined by Ken van Eland, political analyst, former intelligence agent, joining from Amsterdam, Netherlands. It has been suggested by many that even a tiny small incident could escalate and threaten to derail the ceasefire, leading to a new phase of active confrontation on the ground. What is your general observation? Has today's 5th round of the swap been problem-free so far on the basis of your observations?
Well, to a reasonable extent, yes, it is. You know, it's a very unrealistic deal where Israeli hostages are being released and in turn we swap hundreds of Palestinians. Well, anything can go wrong in this deal, anything. Yeah. You know, this could be the last round of swapping, you know, and this is not an exchange of hostages versus other hostages. This is an exchange between hostages and criminals that are being freed because we want our hostages back. Yeah. Well, and anything can go wrong from now on.
Why do you believe that things may go wrong in the first place? What are those reasons making you think that? And where do you see the problem emanating from?
Well, you're dealing with a terrorist organization. They use the hostages as exchange for, because they want to be in power again. You know, we have seen last week what Trump has said, that he's going to buy, no, not even buy, that he's going to use Gaza as a U.S. intervention over there. And he want to remove all the Palestinians from Gaza to wherever.
Well,
so that can change.
We'll come to that point a bit later. You expressed your concerns about those Palestinian prisoners who are set to be released. We know that the 183 male Palestinian prisoners set to be released by Israel today include senior Hamas figures aged between 20 and 61. Do you think this should be the cause of concern for Israel?
Yes, of course it does, because you're releasing criminals, people that have blood on their hands. They have killed innocent civilians in the past. The only reason why Israel is doing that, because they want their people back, the hostages, they want them back. And that makes it very unrealistic.
Are you saying that
and anything can go wrong from now on? Yeah. Because we have gotten back how many hostages? 18, something like that. So there's another 80 to go. That's going to take another 20 to 30 weeks to do so.
But would you say that in principle, the Gaza ceasefire deal
anything can go
is
wrong
within the best interests of both sides, both Israel and Hamas, in principle?
Yeah, but you know, we're not equal partners. The Palestinians, Hamas is a terrorist organization using innocent civilians as hostages in order to get people free that are criminals. They're in Israeli jails for years because they have been prosecuted and then have been sentenced for for life sentences for killing people. And the only reason why the Israelis are doing this is because they want the people back. But that doesn't end the war. It's not going to end the war. This is not the beginning of the end. It's not even the end of the beginning.
On the basis of what's happening now, with Israel being strengthened on the ground, and in the light of Trump's Gaza takeover comment, which effectively means that there will be no Palestinian Authority in charge of Gaza, could we say that all of these things together actually leading to that ultimate point, in the context of which two-state solution would be utterly impossible? Because the drive from Israel seems to be very clear. We heard Benjamin Netanyahu saying that the idea of Palestinian state is a very dangerous one. I think his finance minister expressed even more extreme views. And it looks like that Israel is doing its level best to make sure that at a certain stage in the future, it will be not just not so desirable, but also impracticable.
Yes, that's absolutely true. There's no room for a two-state solution. This was part of the Oslo Accords. Arafat didn't want it. He walked away from Camp David in 2000. The Israelis tried to talk to his successor. He didn't even answer when the Israeli Prime Minister, prior to Netanyahu, offered a Palestinian state. Let's say the Palestinians have overplayed their hand with the 7 October attack and all the atrocities that they have committed over the last 3 years, that there is no room for a two-state solution anymore. And this is Netanyahu's vision already for a long time. And even Trump will support him in this. There is no room for a two-state solution. There's no room for a Palestinian state besides Jordan, which is already a Palestinian state.
I see. Do you then accept that, what you say about there being no room for two-state solution, that actually goes against rule-based international legal order? Would you accept that?
Yes, of course, because there's no alternative. The Palestinian Authority, the only reason why the Palestinian Authority is still there is because of the Israelis. They're keeping them in place because if there will be elections today or tomorrow and on the West Bank, that means Hamas will win. And the Palestinian Authority has no basis whatsoever and no authority in the West Bank. Bringing the Palestinian Authority to Gaza Strip is a rehearsal of things that has happened in 2007, where Hamas will kill them. They kill each other because they don't trust each other. And so the Palestinians have proved over the last decades they can't govern themselves. They have been offered the opportunity in Gaza to prove that they can govern themselves, and they can't. But because what they did, they made Gaza out of a terrorist state, launching missiles every bloody day. Well, you know.
Yes, indeed. I mean, both, many people would brand Donald Trump's Gaza takeover proposition as a recipe for ethnic cleansing and effectively a blow to the two-state solution. And many would say that if it doesn't happen, that planned American takeover, there will be some consequences. In many ways, what you are saying seems to suggest that what is, in the light of international law, is occupation in the West Bank and also in Gaza, which is not a full occupation now, of course. We understand that in the practical sense, should be legalized. So those occupied Palestinian territories should be incorporated into the state of Israel. Is that what you're saying in reality?
Well, in reality is that 90% of the Palestinians living on the West Bank, they are being governed by the Palestinian Authority, not by the Israelis. The only reason why the Israeli army is over there is because they're launching terrorist activities almost every day. So they have to defend themselves. This, you know, the West Bank is being divided into 3 areas, A, B, and C. The Palestinians govern in A and B, and the C is governed by the Israelis. There's only a few Palestinians living in Area C. the Israelis want to control the Jordan River and the Jordan Valley simply by keeping out terrorists coming in through Jordan. But this country is surrounded by enemy states already for a very long time. And Gaza Strip was invented by the Egyptians. And there is an Egyptian border. Well, the Egyptian border is closed. I mean, no Palestinians can go in or can go out through the Egyptian border. And everything should be solved through the Israelis. And the Israelis are not going to solve it because nobody finds it acceptable that that the Palestinians, for example, that a nearby country will attack you with missiles every day, commit atrocities on your soil. Let's say, I'm living in the Netherlands. Belgium is a neighbor country. If they would launch missiles every bloody day and commit atrocities in the Netherlands, we wouldn't be very friendly to them anymore. But everybody finds it very normal that Israel is under fire every bloody day, since years.
And from what you said, it seems to be very clear. Two-state solution is not practicable. International law would not be, it would be impossible to apply international law. Palestinians do not deserve to have a state because they are inherently incapable of having a state. That's what I have understood from what you said. They do already have a state, which is Jordan. These are very extreme views. I'm sure you would appreciate that. These are your views.
Well, the fact
yes,
is, I've written an article
yes.
in the forum about a three-state solution.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The three-state solution actually is that the Sunni states, Saudi Arabia, the Arab Emirates, but even Egypt and Jordan should take their responsibility to govern the Palestinians. If the Palestinians are not able to govern them themselves and live in peace with the Israelis, which they don't want, because they have been offered over and over and over a Palestinian state, and they've always refused to have a Palestinian state because they don't want a Palestinian state. The only thing what they want is a Palestinian state instead of Israel, meaning a genocidal war against the Israelis and wiping them out. That would be the only proper solution to them. Well, that's not a proper solution to the Israelis. So what is going to be the alternative? The alternative is a three-state solution where Jordan will take its responsibility on the West Bank and Egypt takes its responsibility in Gaza. But both countries don't want that to happen for obvious reasons. Because Egypt don't want Hamas in its space, because the Muslim Brotherhood, which Egypt has taken out and almost destroyed, will come back to Sinai.
Let me to put it this way: what is the solution under the circumstances? Because I mean, the position of international law, international community is very clear. And most countries support two-state solution. They believe that Palestinians were not given a proper chance to form a state of their own because of the Israeli occupation. Your argument is that it's on the conscience of Palestinians for not being able to create their own state. But what is the optimal solution?
Well, before 1967, there was no occupation of the West Bank. There was no occupation of Gaza Strip. It was occupied by Jordan, which annexed actually the West Bank. So before 1967, the Palestinians were not even willing to talk to the Israelis about their own Palestinian state. And after 1967, the Israelis offered to return the occupied territory back to the Egyptians and back to the Jordans for peace. Yep. And everybody refused it.
And are Palestinians now bound to pay the price for not compromising back then?
Say that again?
And now, are the Palestinians now, those in the West Bank and those in Gaza, are bound to pay the price for not compromising before 1967, for not talking to Israelis before 1967? Well, if you want to have a state,
you have to compromise. Well, the Israelis compromised in 1947 that they got a very small and very sliver of land. And they accepted it in 1947. And then they got our country. But it was offered to the Palestinians as well to have a Palestinian state in 1947, and they denied it. They didn't want it. They started a war. They lost their moral responsibility and started a war. And they started the war in 1967, and they started the war in 1973. And they keep on fighting and losing wars one after another. So if you're not going to compromise, because you want a state, you will never get a state.
Well, let's move into the realm of current events, move back into the realm of current events. The very latest executive order signed by President Donald Trump, officially titled as Addressing Egregious Actions of the Republic of South Africa, effectively freezes assistance to this country, specifically referencing its targeting of Israel at the International Court of Justice, ICJ, and reinvigorating its relations with Iran to develop commercial, military and nuclear arrangements. In the face of some of the criticism concerning Israel over its actions in relation to Gaza, is it likely this sort of American support, in particular in the context of the International Court of Justice, to embolden Israel further? And one more extra question here. We understand Israel has been facing international criticism regarding its actions in the context of Gaza. We know all the story about ICJ, and you earlier said that the reason why you are, the Israeli government is currently releasing those prisoners, not because the Israeli government believes that it's a judicious action to take, but because you have to get your hostages back. Assuming that you have got your hostages back, all of them, and you do not have any reason to be compromising, would you say that Israel would be actually interested taking more actions on the ground, exacerbating the circumstances involving the Palestinians?
Yeah, this is a ceasefire. This is not the end of the war. This is what the Arabs call a hudna, because they want to regain in strength. And the Israelis will wait till they have their hostages back. Because the political influence of having all these people captured and being taken hostage in Gaza gives an enormous political turmoil in Israel. As soon as they're all being released, then the war will go on. It will continue. Because this is not the end of the problem. Because what will happen, let's say, if all the hostages are released? Will Hamas be in power again? Will they start shooting missiles again? Are they going to commit other atrocities again? And they promise to do so.
And you're taking it for granted that they will do it? On the basis of what you heard from those people associated with Hamas publicly?
I say that again because
you take it for granted that once that hostage prisoner swap is over, once Israel gets back all of its hostages, the ceasefire will be shaken to the extent of broken, because you take it for granted that Hamas will take some actions on the ground and Israel will need to react to that. Is that what you said?
Exactly. But the chance, I'm not going to predict anything, but the chance that things will go wrong, it needs a political solution. But you see a political solution with a terror organization that have only one aim, that's the destruction of the state of Israel. They want to commit a genocide on the Israelis. Well, is that your partner for peace? You want to deal with them? That's not going to work. So how are we going to solve this? Hamas will be back in power. Okay. What will they do first? It's going to take 10 to 15 years to remove all the rubble. You think that Hamas will spend all the money that they will get in rebuilding Gaza and refuse to stay away from military actions against Israel for the next coming 10 to 15 years? You see that happening? I don't.
Let's go back to that executive order issued by President Donald Trump. That order is about South Africa, and it has been suggested that reference to Iran is particularly interesting, given that Iran and South Africa are actually claimed to have been working on a deal to build a legal case against Israel in the International Court of Justice. What would you say on these claims?
No, two hypocrite countries trying to push Israel. You know, it's illegal. It has become also a legal war. They're fighting Israel on any front, not on, let's say, not only on the ground, but also in the courtrooms. Yes, we have a courtroom here in The Hague, in the Netherlands. They have become very political. The ICC has become a political institute which is biased towards Israel.
Yeah.
And they have made a major mistake by trying to prosecute Netanyahu, which is a very dumb mistake, because Netanyahu is a democratic chosen leader of a democratic country defending itself against terrorists. Okay, imagine what happened after.
I may be wrong. I need to double check, but I think that executive order was referencing International Court of Justice, not International Criminal Court, not ICC, ICJ.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, indeed. And what's about the jurisdiction of the court? America, as a very great powerhouse, is effectively not recognizing the jurisdiction of ICJ in many ways. It doesn't show any deference. What does it say about the rule-based order? Does it say, on the basis of the personality of Donald Trump, on the basis of what Vladimir Putin's government in Moscow, Russia, is doing with regard to Ukraine, with regard to the application of force outside one's nation's sovereign borders, do you think that the world is changing beyond recognition, and the Trump's personality exemplifies that very change?
Well, it was not only Trump that is not recognizing. Biden didn't recognize him as well. Yeah. All other former U.S. presidents didn't recognize the International Criminal Court or whatever ICJ for obvious reasons.
Indeed, this criticism quite often levied against the United States of America, not just because of Donald Trump, but also previous leaders of the country. In general, the US is perceived to be not taking into account anything.
Well, we have this court here in The Hague. What have they shown over the last decades in prosecuting criminals from Africa? Easy to get people. Huh? How are you going to prosecute the United States of America invading Vietnam or invading Afghanistan? You're fighting a huge power. Even the Russians are not recognizing it. The Chinese are not recognizing it because they all want to be in their own political hemisphere, and they don't want any other people prosecuting them.
My last question to you, if I may come back to the original point with which we started the conversation. This Gaza ceasefire deal, you're not very hopeful about it, I realize that, but it has got 3 stages. Yeah. Do you think the first stage, at least, will be finalized properly? It should be finalized by early March.
Yeah, well, let's say this is a very complicated problem because this is not a dispute between equal countries, between Germany or France or whatever. It's a terrorist organization fighting in a democratic country, which defends itself and has the right to defend itself. If we all want to resolve this problem, but how are we going to resolve it? Nobody has ever come up with a proper idea to resolve this. Because why? Because the Palestinians don't want it to resolve it, because they want to annihilate Israel. So how are you going to talk to somebody that's coming to the table to annihilate you? There's no solution.
Well, to be absolutely honest, I perfectly understand what you're saying about that. There's extreme voices in different Arab countries about rejection of the existence of Israeli state, about the annihilation of Israeli state. But there are equally quite extreme voices in Israeli society as well. I mean, the finance minister saying that the Palestine should not exist as a state. You, in your own way, saying that they already have established their own state, which is the state of the Jordan, the Palestinian state. And also there are views that Palestinians are inherently apparently incapable of having their own state, which are incredibly extreme views. And also, if to be absolutely honest with you,
it becomes
reaction to the
extremer.
Gaza takeover comment by Donald Trump has been positively received by Netanyahu's government, but also by centrist opposition there. They have not wholeheartedly embraced it, but they sort of welcomed it as well. It looks like a sentiment within the Israeli society that the idea of Palestine as a state is not practicable, and actually all the measures should be taken in order to make sure that that will be a necessity, not just a proposition. So extreme views are dominating within the both realms. I suppose that would be the feeling that many people would have.
Shows how complex it is.
Indeed, yeah, that's
it shows how complex it is.
It shows how complex it is, and it shows that it's very difficult to establish an absolute truth regarding this very matter. But thank you very much indeed for your time, and most grateful to you for your answers. Very grateful to you. This was Ken van Lindert, a political analyst and former intelligence officer who joined from Amsterdam, Netherlands. See you very soon.